Good afternoon and welcome back to the shop. So as you can see here, I just spent the last couple of hours blocking this panel out. Now we talk about what's called blocking the panel. Well, really it's just because that's what they call these things. These are Durablocks and you get them in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And basically they're so that you can wrap sandpaper around them and then you can flatten and you can sand the panel. The problem with this panel is it is not flat, right? How do you flatten a rounded panel? Well, the option is to get rid of these big guys. The big guy's not going to do here, because if I sand with this, I'm just going to be sanding a small area here and I'm going to create all sorts of messes. So that's no good. I can go to a smaller one of those, right, which is smaller, which means it's not going to be so much wiggle on it, but it still will also have a hot spot. That's where these come in. They're flexible. So now what you can do is I can take the sandpaper, put it on this, and as you can see now, that does not wiggle. Right, so I'm able to now sand and have full contact surface over the area, because what we're trying to do is just make sure everything is even all the way across. Now, as you probably notice here, I had to put filler in on both sides. Why is that? Because what they ended up doing is when they bonded the top to the bottom panel, they must have put some sort of clamp here to hold the two together, and that clamp flattened this area out. So as I was sanding, it left the guide coat. Now, if you're familiar with the guide coat, again, I can refer you back to the 68 Mustang. But what guide coat is nothing more than a black powdery paint that you spray lightly, because you only want to get speckles of black, because all you want to do is when you're sanding, I want to sand until all the black is gone. And once all the black is gone, then I know that panel is flat. When I initially sanded this panel, unfortunately, I had a black stripe here and a black stripe here, and that's because the panel was deformed. So I had to build it up in order to then sand down to it. Now remember, with fiberglass, you cannot hammer and dolly fiberglass. So the idea is I can sand down, but I can't bring the panel up. I can't go underneath with a hammer and try to bring the metal up to meet the top. I have to fill it. So all of the work on this car has to be body filler. But I'm done on this panel now. We've cut it through. I had a couple of air bubbles caught in the fiberglass or in the body filler, which is normal. And of course, those little air bubbles then leave a little mark. Well, for that, I was simply using a glaze, and this is what this is for. This is designed that if you expose an air pocket that was caught or an air bubble that was caught in your fiber or in your body work, you can just put a little red on it, wait for it to harden up, come back, a couple of hits with the sandpaper, and you're done. Now this panel is done at 220 grit. Now I'm going to leave it at 220 because we're going to respray this car with primer one last time after we've done the hood, the two doors, and the body. Take it all down to 220, and once we're there, we're going to clean the panels and we're going to paint them again. And this time, instead of the 220, I'm going to come with a 600. And that 600 now, when I come over the car, is not to flatten the panels. They're already flat. That 600 is to prep this surface so that I can have a great, smooth, very few scratches in the filler. Also a consistent color. I don't want these little marks everywhere because that might show up through the paint. We are going to hit this with the 600 grit. We're going to flatten that primer out, and then that car, or this car, will be ready to be painted its final colors. Of course, I'm not going to record myself flattening all these panels. I mean, you've seen me do it before. You've seen me do it on the Mustang. Basically, it's nothing but grunt work, but I'm going to take care of that over the next few weeks, hopefully. Next time you see me, this car hopefully will be ready for paint, because it will be, I will have sanded it a second time with the 600, and we should be ready to apply the final color on this car. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.